Hello, Soulcraft lovers, and welcome to another exciting edition on Soulcraft with Stacy. And today I'll be showing you how I made this lovely, gorgeous top. And I hope you find this video helpful. Stay tuned. Welcome once again. So this is my pattern paper. I used just leftover scraps which I had, and normally when using your fabric or pattern papers you need to fold in two, but there was no opportunity for me to do that, so I used a piece. However, I considered my measurements divided by 4. Taking my measurements now from shoulder to bust point to my under bust to my waist. I didn't take the full length at first because I wanted to know the half scale length first before extending the remaining part of the blouse length. So these are my lines. I went ahead to mark my shoulder measurement, which is 8, and also extended the measurement downwards in order for me to get my measurement. So this is my rolled lines, as you can see on the screen. That's the starting line, which is also the shoulder line. And I'm also marking the armhole line. I wouldn't have extended that line towards the folded point. And I also marked my under bust measurements, the waist measurement. That was supposed to be the waist and not the length. And please, I forgot to take note of this, but because I didn't have enough pattern papers, I decided to just use one piece instead of folding it. In other words, where my hands are, the point where I actually noted and labeled my points, my body points, it's where the folded edge should be. So when drafting yours, you could use a pattern paper on fold, because every measurement in sewing is always on fold, which is dividing your measurement by 4 inches. I'll be posting a more accurate tutorial, a more detailed tutorial on basic bodies using a full pattern paper. But for now, I hope you do understand what I'm doing. Here I marked my bust span. My bust span is 3.5, and so I used 4 inches for this particular tutorial and went down by 1 inch from my bust point line, and then I extended the line, taking 1/2 inch on both sides from the bust span line, or you can also call it nipple to nipple measurement. And then I went ahead to mark my round waist, that's my waist circumference, my bust circumference. I also added the measurement of the darts. I replaced it and also took my allowance. You could take as much as you want, 2 inches, 1.5, depending on what you want to. So here I rolled the line, extended my lines, and just for more clearer view, I indicated the allowance. And then I'm curving out my armhole curve from that particular line. And here I wanted to take my shoulder slope. So in order to determine your shoulder slope, you must make sure you use 3 inches width and 1 inches depth from the end of your armhole line. And I went ahead to roll that line in order to get my slope. I hope you can see that clearly though. Now, normally when doing a shirt project, you're supposed to actually take the excess allowances for your button flap. But in this case, I didn't have that opportunity to get a full paper, like I said, pattern paper. So I had to cut 1.5 inches width, 1.5 inches width, just a piece of paper, 1.5 inch width, and extended it to fit in from my starting line down to where I want my blouse length to stop. So at first, when I was taking this measurement, I just took a half cut, or what we call half scale measurement. This time around, I'm indicating the extended length of the blouse or top, the extended length of the top. So I used from my shoulder to my half scale measurement. What I used was exactly 16, and then I added more inches to get the full length of my top. And I think what I added there should be an extension of 7 inches. So automatically the blouse length, now the total blouse length which I used is 22 inches. 22 inches for the front panel. I'm working on my front panel, and right now I'm trying to mark where I want my button flap to start, and as well as the neck depth. So I took my neck depth from the starting line down to my bust point, and I'm going to create a curve towards the under bust. Don't forget your button flap. So you can decide to create the curve to meet at the bust point line, or you could just create a curve to just end at your under bust and leave the other part straight. So I took 1 inch button flap. You can use 1 inch. 1 inch is better. 1 inch is preferable. So I'm going ahead to cut the lines so that I can get my accurate measurements cut out, and taking the excesses away as well. So that's the excess I had to take out from the paper, so you can see how it looks. If you were to do this on fold, definitely you're supposed to add your 1 inch button allowance before you begin taking your main measurements. So that's the button flap. This is the upper part. You don't actually need to cut out that which I just did. And so I'm creating slash lines from top to bottom, and then you have to cut out all of your slash lines and label them. You need to label them so that you don't miss how it looks. So I took an extra paper. Added another extra, taped it down so that it will be wider and bigger. I had to use what I have to achieve this. Really, you don't want to waste what you have. Always make sure you consume everything before you discard. So that's the labeling, and then you must separate those lines to create a kind of pleat. So the parts where I'm marking now are the spaced parts. You could use 2 inches, you could use the 1 inch as well. So this is my sleeve. I'll also be posting a tutorial soon on how to make a sleeve. But because I didn't want this video to be too lengthy, I just took the measurement of my sleeve and worked with my pattern. So here I'm cutting directly on the fabric, the back panel. The back panel, I'm cutting it directly on the fabric. So that's my starting line. And I'm taking my shoulder measurement, which is 16 divided by 2, 8. I'm taking the extended measurement to get my armhole, which is also 8. I'm taking a curve as well. And so my bust point line, of course there's no bust at the back, but you need to take note of your bust point line and your waist measurement. Now the back part of your outfits are always shorter than the front parts because there's bust in the front, but there's no bust at the back. The back is flat. So one of the things and tricks you could do is just to minus 3 inches from the length of your front panel. So I'm using 4 inches for the back. Now normally your back panel can have a zipper of 1 inch or 2 inches, but this top is already going to have buttons in front, so I exempted the zip allowance and just decided to go ahead with my bust span, which is 4, and of course my neck width to get my shoulder slope. So after taking my shoulder slope, I now took my exact neck width measurement, which is 3.5. I didn't want the wideness of the neck to be too much, so I used 3.5 so that the remaining half will go in for the lining part of the top. I don't have a tracing wheel or something to mark on, so what I do is to use my office pins and pin those points so that they can reflect behind the fabric. Taking my round waist measurement as well as my round bust measurement. Don't forget also to add your dart allowances to replace it while you take your measurement. So that's 19 inches. When I was done, I realized I should have actually made it 21 inches, but it was still cool, came out well, came out nice. So I've gone ahead to cut out my piece, and then remember those pins we used. So I'll be using my ruler now to rule those pinned lines instead of remeasuring it back. So guys, I don't want to teach you lazy man's work, but that way you get it more accurately. So I've set all my piece aside, and this is my sleeve. So in the next tutorial, I'll be posting part 2 of this video. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and make sure you hit the subscribe button, like and share this video. Bye.